So I'm back in the studio after this shot on Notre Dame and with this beautiful sunset, and I want to show you how I work. You see, I'm in the develop module in Lightroom 4. I've got all my photos there. That's a first selection that I do. And I basically go through the first photos. It's just regular shots taken with a tripod or handheld, as I showed you in the video. So I went wide and I went closer. And then we have an HDR. That's the normal exposure, that's the underexposure, that's the overexposure. When I locate an HDR, I select all three photos, I go to set color label and I put them into red. That's just my workflow. Okay, and then what do we have here? Oh, we have another HDR. So let's put the label red onto it. Then we have the long exposure. That's way too bright. That's probably not usable. And then that's a bit darker and that's a bit darker. No. Okay, so we have two regular exposition, and then we have this one which is darker. So it could be interesting maybe mixing up this exposure for the buildings, for example, and this exposure for the sky, or this exposure and this exposure. I don't know. That could be interesting using the digital blending, which there will be one video just for that. And then that's another HDR photo. So I'm going to take all three and put it into red. And that's, I think, one more HDR photo. So you see, same scene, a lot of three different techniques basically. One is just a regular shot, and the other one is long exposure, and the other one in HDR. So in this first video, we're gonna just do a standard retouching. And then at the end of all the videos, we're gonna compare and see what is nicer looking, what photography technology in terms of shooting and retouching brought the most emotion. That's the only thing I'm interested in, is emotion. So first thing first, I think I'm going to go for this photo or that photo because it's got no boats. It's pretty pure. One is wide, one is not so wide. I think I'm going to take the not so wide. Now look at the histogram before we start. Look at the histogram, see how it's a bit flat. And I'm going to do my famous 4 steps. So my famous 4-step is, that's just my workflow. Open up the shadows, bring down the highlights, and then using the option key, going with the whites, and going to the right until I see some white points, and then going left a bit more until I see a bit more black points. Now look at the information now, how it's much bigger. I show you the before and after. Just before and after these 4 steps. So let me go in the history here. Okay, so that's, just look at the histogram before and the histogram after. See how all the information, are more used. This is a raw file. What we're trying to do is use as much information as we can. That's the only thing we are trying to do, okay? So now the sky is way too bright compared to the rest. So I'm going to use the ND filter. I'm going to click on the option key, reset everything, and then put a minus exposure, and let's do a little graded filter. Now I like to do that before doing the temperature. I do my first 4 steps, and then I correct the sky. I'm maybe gonna get it even darker, and I'm maybe gonna add some saturation in the sky to make it pop even more, okay? I kind of like that. So let's close this tool. Okay, and now let's tackle the white balance. Now, the white balance, one question I get often is like people saying, oh, I don't have these options when I go into the white balance. Well, my friend, that's because you're not retouching a raw file. This is a raw file. And you're going to get this raw file if you bought this training. This is a DNG file. It's a raw file. So I've got lots and lots of options here. Let's go to cloudy. Cloudy is a very warm setup. I kind of like cloudy because it really gives, a nice sunset. Now I lost a bit the blue in the sky, and I kind of like that. So usually when I go for cloudy, I add a bit of magenta. That's just my workflow. I like how it gives a cloudy look. And then I'll go back in the filter, and I'm going to add one more filter, but before I'm going to reset everything. And on that filter, so far I've done nothing. All I'm going to do is add a bit of blue, because I want to have this contrast between the blue of the sky and the yellow of the sun, because that's how it is in real life, a color contrast. Okay, now see how things are before the filters, and after the filters, see how the sky is like, whoa, here I am, I'm the sky, I'm really happy to be here, you know. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Now the photo is a bit blurry. That's because I'm using a low-res monitor to record this tutorial, so it's you can see you know, the settings a bit more. I prefer my resolutions, but then you won't be able to see the Lightroom's sliders as good. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm usually I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna try. I'm gonna go into camera calibration. Same thing. That option, you only get it if you are doing a RAW file. If it's a JPEG, you won't get it. So let's try camera landscape. It's a profile. That's way too red. So I'm gonna stand back on standard. Okay. And then one thing that I usually do when we have sunset is I go into the hue, saturation, and luminance. And I'm gonna go first into the hue and see if I can go. Usually I go here. You see the orange, how it is a bit like yellow here and a bit orange there. I want to move this a little bit, see if I can make it a bit redder. I kind of like that. Same thing with the yellows, make them a bit stronger. Okay, so now we've got like, because it was an amazing sunset, you know, and I think we gave some justice back to it. Okay, so I kind of happy with that. Now let's check out the noise. There is a bit of noise, but not that much. So you know what? Noise reduction, when I think it's a bit grainy, I just put it around 10. That's it. Let's look at some darker parts. Okay, darker parts, there is some color noise. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a bit of color noise. I have this tendency of always underexposing my photos, so there's a bit of color noise. So you know what? Color noise, I'm gonna go the whole way. I go very strong. Now the funny thing about color noise is that color noise, when you take it out, it doesn't blur so much your photo than luminance does. Okay, luminance, I see there is a bit more, so I'm gonna go to 30. Okay, next, I'm gonna put the sharpening around 80. Okay, that's just my basic sharpening. Now, I don't want the sharpening to happen. You see, it's getting all grainy here in the sky. See how it's all grainy? So I'm gonna use a masking tool. For this, I press the Option key and I go right. Anything which is white, the sharpening is gonna get applied to. If I get some blacks, it's becoming a mask. So anything which is black now does not get any sharpening. I just want the sharpening on the borders, not on the sky. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Next, I think I'm going to add a bit of clarity. I don't do this as a up and down checklist. I do it per feeling. You know, that's how I feel about it. Okay, that's kind of cool. Last but not least, oh, one thing I didn't do, and which is very important, is the lens correction. Profile, enable lens correction. That's gonna take the vignetting off, so we're gonna have to put it back because I think on landscape vignetting works a lot, but check it out before the lens correction, after the lens correction. Now, this was shot with a 1740, and the 1740 has a lot of vignetting. It's really darkening, you know, the borders, so it's taking this out. Now, the second tab is chromatic aberration. Now, I believe there must be some chromatic aberration here. If I zoom here at 100%, because I'm shooting right into the sun, see here how this is red here. Check it out. If I click on remove chromatic aberration, it's a bit less red. It's not that much of a big deal, but I do it, you know, because on big prints you can kind of see it. Okay, I'm kind of happy with that. I think I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do a little cropping here. I don't think it's fully straight. So let's go and get our angle tool here. And I'm gonna use the bridge as a reference. We'll make sure this photo is straight. That's perfect. Okay, and now I'm gonna take a bit out of the water. And I like the movie look, you know, the movie look, you know, like 16:9 or 235. Basically, you know, movies are like very wide and not very high. You know, I kind of like that look on landscape. It works well. And two things I still want to do on this one is the post-crop vignetting. So I go here, just adding some vignettes again. And let's do some dodge and burning. I cannot leave a photo that I like without doing dodge and burning. I just can't. So how does this work? Take the brush tool, press the Option key, making sure the reset is on. I'm going to boost the exposure, quite some. One thing that I do now when I do dodge and burning, I make sure feathers at 100 and flow and density, I get them around 80 so that you can see a bit less the brush stroke. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a bit of white here. Now that's not enough. So I'm going to boost again the flow and the intensity, 94, 95. I don't put it to 100, just something like that. And you know what? I'm going to boost the exposure. It's not enough. I really want people to see here. I just want to add some kind of circles here and here. Okay. And maybe here. No. Command Z. Why am I Command Z this? Because you see these two spots are fine for me. Check it out. If I show you before the brush and after the brush, it's kind of subtle, but I think it's we can see a bit more of the texture of these walls, you know. Okay, now when I'm satisfied with that, I'm just going to click on new, because I kind of like these two brush strokes and I just don't want to mess with them anymore. So now I'm going to make one more brush stroke here on Notre Dame itself. Okay, kind of like that. I'm going to click on new, use the same value, and I'm going to add some colors here on the water. Now you see this is way too bright, but as it is a separate pin and a separate brush, which you can see here, I can just bring it down. I just want to add a little bit, you know, of the eyes goes to the brightest part of the photo. So it's going to go here, 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 you know. That's where the eyes is going to go. Okay, and I'm pretty much done with that photo. Okay, so let me show you the before and after on this one. Okay, to see the before and after, all I have to do is the backslash key. So here I go, backslash key, that's the before, and that's the after. A lot of change. So usually when I'm done retouching the photo, I give it a 2-star. So I right click and set this rating at 2-star. Okay, in the next video, we're gonna retouch the lone exposure with digital blending. It's gonna go crazy.